What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Landon Raby. With me, Dylan Taylor. Just when you thought Tennessee was done and out of it, here they come back and go ahead and sweep Texas A&M. What a bounce back by this team! I mean, I think Tony Vitello mentioned it. They came back, got to work, and had some grit about them. I think they found a little bit of an edge to them this weekend. Um, it felt like kind of that old Tennessee, that old swagger that Tennessee's had the previous years. It wasn't pretty, and maybe that's something you kind of look at like, hey, this team can really be something because Tennessee didn't play their best baseball. I don't think this weekend they still came out with a sweep over a top 25 team and a team that returned a lot of starters that made Omaha last year. So I thought all in all, really good weekend. The bats were alive and well. That's something that we weren't talking about, and it's a completely different show. There's tons of positivity this show. Last episode there wasn't a ton because there wasn't a ton to talk about. But man, what a weekend it was, and I think the biggest thing for me was the outfield. The bats are one thing, but I think the bats have always kind of been there. They just kind of have their off games. But the biggest question mark so far is just the outfield, and I mean there was tons of top 10 worthy plays out there this weekend by Kavaris Tears, Hunter Inslee, Griffin Merritt robbed her home run yesterday. Christian Scott. I mean it was just really good play in the outfield, and I think that is something Tennessee can kind of carry into the rest of this SEC play, and including next weekend when you go to LSU.
Yeah, from the young guys, especially as you just listed off, because I know that was a big thing. Is especially guy like Kavaris Tears, you knew he had the bat the entire time, but you wondered like, hey, can he fill that role every day? And then after last week, you kind of left with the same questions, if not leaning a little bit more the other way with some of the outfielders. So it was good. It was good to see them handle their business and do it at the plate too. Because I mean, obviously the bats came alive. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the pitching. I was looking at stats on Friday to realize we only gave up 3 hits on somehow gave up 4 runs though. So I mean, that's going to happen from time to time. But the big thing we talked about is seeing this lineup produce in SEC play, and you saw that it's the Undertaker coming back from the dead meme.
Yeah, and it just seemed different at the plate. There was, everybody kind of knew their job and what to do. It seemed like last week, they just couldn't move runners. I don't know if it's just like getting up there and hacking or what it is, but everybody kind of knew exactly what to do with the bat when they're at the plate. They had some sort of plan in place. You saw us move runners. There was I think 3 sacrifice flies this weekend. One was a walk off. Shout out Jared Dickey. 2 sacrifice hits. I mean there was a lot of stealing and moving on pass balls and stuff like that. Just a little bit of small ball that I think Tennessee has kind of went away from just because last year you hit so many home runs you didn't need it. But I think this is a different group, and I think that's something that they should do. I think there's a lot of good hitters in this lineup. I don't think all of them hit for a ton of power. So that's one way that you beat on teams like a Texas A&M this weekend is you move runners, you don't strike out a ton, and you get runners in when you need to.
It's why it's why Jared Dickey looks so good this weekend. It's why a guy like Zane Denton and his patience all year. That's why he stands out. It's because it's like what you're saying. Like you've gotten so used to seeing the deep fly and being at the top of that list really for the last couple of years now that you don't want to say you become dependent on it. But I mean, I know we've talked about it on here before. Like, hey, guys, it is okay to lay a sacrifice bunt down sometimes. Like as much as you may hate it, and I understand because I mean they're all hitters. Like I don't think anybody goes up there like, "Yay, let me lay a sacrifice bunt down here." They're just begging to do that. But at the same time, like, do you want to do that or do you want to win games? Like that's what it comes down to sometimes. So I mean, it's good to see that it's not just the young guys being relied on to do that too. Like you got
Mhm.
guys that like Hunter Inslee, who it's not send him up there and hope he can do the little thing right to get it ready for the other half of the lineup. It's no, he can go up there and rip it, and you got young guys that can do the small parts. So especially for freshmen, that's the most intriguing part to me. Is just they don't a lot of times with freshmen, especially in the outfield, like we talked about, where there's so many guys competing for playing time, it's got to be difficult at times to swallow your pride and say, hey, like, you don't know how many chances you're going to get. So you're wanting to show out every chance you get. And sometimes showing out is just doing a small thing right.
Yeah. And I think, playing a little bit of small ball, I mean, we have so many lefties in the lineup, and a lot of those are pull hitters that they're shifting to toward that right field. I mean, I'd like to see us. I know Blake Burke. I know he squared one time, but didn't actually. I think they threw a ball the next time he was swinging away. But I mean, guys like that, like even Jared Dickey, people that can he bunted for a hit this weekend. Um, so I would like to see a little bit more of at least trying it. Make them respect it a little bit. That hey, if you want to shift and have everybody over there to that right side, let's go right down the third baseline with a bunt and see what happens. I
The
mean,
only
depending on how fast that player is, he might get a double out of some of these.
the only requirement is don't be super slow. Like
Yeah,
you can even be a little you could be my speed, a little bit slow, and you're still going to beat it out. Like and
right.
Blake Burke, I mean, he's tall. He can even if he's not fast, he can get the strides going. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just something that you may not do it until you know second game of regional, but
Mhm.
man, you may need it then, and it's nice to be able to do it then and not be completely foreign to you.
Yeah, and I thought 1 through 9. I thought everybody hit this weekend, or at least did their job, knew their role. Hunter Inslee was a guy. I mean, I think yesterday, I think only the first like 6 hitters, only one of those guys had an RBI, and it was Blake Burke. The rest of the runs came from the bottom of the lineup. Now, part of that is because Zane Denton was at the bottom. He had 5 on his own, but they did a really good job of, kind of mixing up that lineup a little bit. And I don't know if Zane Denton's going to be there all the time, but it was, I mean, much like this team went through on Tuesday, it was kind of a wake up call. You see the lineup and you're not in it. You're down at the bottom of it when you're the cleanup hitter. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of method to Tony Vitello's madness, a little bit. It seemed to get everybody's attention. It seemed to got Zane Denton's attention yesterday. As a right-handed hitter, he looks like a. I guess when he's right or left-handed, he seems like a different player.
Yeah.
Um, in terms like, do we want left-handed Zane Denton or do we want right-handed Zane Denton? I think he should be able to bat twice.
Now I'm not so sure anymore. I would have said lefty before, but I mean maybe when he hits in the eighth hole from now on, he's strictly right-handed from there. Maybe it's a situational based thing.
I don't know the rules, and I don't think there is a rule. But can he switch in the middle of an at bat?
I've go watch a Mississippi State game, I guess, because they got that
Yeah, if the
ambidextrous
pitcher can do it,
pitcher.
surely a hitter can, right?
I don't know. I thought before they made a rule where you had to declare, okay, I'm going with this hand, but I
Mm,
don't know if the batter has to do that first or the pitcher.
gotcha.
Because I mean, the
So I
batter's going to
guess a pitcher can do it like he can have one batter and then the next batter he can throw
right. I
a
mean,
different
the
way.
pitcher's going to decide on what the hitter's doing. The hitter's going to decide what the pitcher's doing. So I don't know who gets the tie
Yeah,
goes to the runner, but I don't know in this situation if it goes batter or pitcher.
interesting. Yeah, I'd like to see him hit twice in the lineup. If he gets out the first time, maybe just go from the other side and see what happens.
Well, just swing at a ball that's going to hit you, and it hits you, so it's technically a strike, and then that just gets him mad, and he switched over to the other side, so he still gets
Yeah,
a cut either way.
yeah.
I'm not sure that he would like that idea, but I didn't say it was a good idea. Saying
But yeah, it was kind of 1 through 9. I mean, Tears on Friday. I know he got injured, but he was 2 for 2 in that game with 3 RBIs. So I mean, it was kind of the whole entire lineup. Christian Moore had another good weekend. I thought Maui Ahuna has really asserted himself nicely at the top of the lineup. Um, and then I was super impressed with Hunter Inslee. I mean, we were talking about the outfield. He looked a natural in the outfield. He looked super athletic, but also like the bat wasn't too much for him either. He handled his bat well, and you know I kind of like him in the lineup. I think he's earned it.
If all we've seen him do is consistently do it, so until proven otherwise, I mean, yeah, some of the guys that had been doing it until then, yeah, I mean, it's his spot to. The way it's went so far, I mean, it's the guy, it's the hot hand right now. I mean,
Hmm.
you don't know if that's going to be a season long thing. Odds are it's not going to be the entire season, but can you don't want to call it a grace period really, but can you earn enough to when you get to a struggle still prove that you're the guy that you get to stay in for the struggle. Like you're not going to get yanked for somebody. Try to find another hot hand. It's like, oh well, let him have a couple games. You know, he's struggling right now, but then he's going to find it eventually.
Yeah, and last week we were talking about how this team struck out way too many times. Well, on Friday they only struck out 3 times, and I mentioned before the show 2 of those were in the eighth inning, our last at bat on Friday night. So I thought that was really good approach. It seemed like all weekend. I mean, there was times where I'd like to see us maybe see a curveball a little bit better, but all in all, I mean, you battled back. You battled back from last weekend to this weekend, but also in the first inning, you're down going into the bottom half. So battle back, and to get a win against Texas A&M. I mentioned they were in Omaha last year. I mean, it ain't like you're playing a nobody in the SEC. I mean,
No.
there's not really a nobody. We saw that last weekend with Missouri. um, but yeah, it was just dominant pretty much all weekend, and the starting pitching. I don't know. I was asked this question last night on More Important Issues. I don't know what the issue is in the first inning. Maybe nerves is some of it. I don't know. But after that, it seems like our guys kind of settle in. And but yeah, the first inning has not been great. I think Tennessee has given up a run, and I think 8 games in the first inning, or 12 games in the first inning. I think so. Um, Not great. I'd like to see us start a little better because I feel like we blow out some of these teams if not.
Yeah, I don't. I Nobody looks comfortable in the first inning, and we attribute it to the first series against Mizzou is kind of half joking, but kind of not. Like, is it just the weather? Like, is everybody just on edge a little bit? But it's like it's taken with Dolander especially. It's like it's taken him halfway through the second time in the lineup before he really starts like honing in, and
Hmm.
it's not necessarily even that he's just getting. I mean, he got pounded a little bit earlier in the season, but I mean, he's not. It's not like guys have just figured him out or anything like that. It's just missing spots. Walking more people than we've seen. That kind of goes for everybody. Walking more people than we've seen in the past. So I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's instead of just coming out of the gates hot last year. Maybe it's just taking a little while to get the arms fully ready to go. I mean, I don't know why that would be the case, but I mean,
Hmm.
it's a funny game.
Well, part of it is we gave Jack Moss something to hit. I mean, that dude's insane. So
Yeah.
I'd rather us not pitch, especially Sunday. I was like, I'm good if he doesn't hit, and then he ends up hitting a home run, which questionable. I don't know about that home run, but whatever. They
It's a
reviewed
small
it, so
stadium.
obviously review is never wrong. So
No, not at all. Especially with the one angle in college baseball that's
yeah, it's like how can
bird's
you
eye view.
overturn that? How in the whatever. I'm not getting into it. But yeah, starting pitching like it wasn't terrible. It was better than last weekend, but wasn't terrible. Um, I would say pretty good. But the bullpen I thought was phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah,
they
no,
minimized damage, got outs. We threw I don't know how many people, 6 guys. I mean, they threw 3 different guys in one inning. Each of them had a batter, and they got each of them out. And it was Xander pitched on the weekend, which shout out. It's about time we get him out of the bullpen on the weekends. Then it was AJ Russell, and then Jake Fitzgibbon got a whole inning. So yeah, pitched a lot of guys, and I thought they did really well. Seth Halverson, and it's just you have all these arms, and then you throw in Camden Sewell, he's back, and it's just it doesn't even seem fair.
I saw it earlier. I was checking it to make sure. Wasn't it Saturday? Let me see. Yeah. So Saturday, Sewell. Listen to this. Point 2 innings, and he technically got the win. If what I'm looking at is correct.
Yes.
Easy day's work. That's a good way to ease back into the season. I mean, we had seen him a little bit since he came back this year, but what a better way to just come in and I mean, you throw what? Maybe a long inning to point two is 30 pitches. Maybe you get a win. I
Yeah.
mean,
And then you
I doubt he broke a sweat.
he finished out the game yesterday. Finished it off with a strikeout like only Camden Sewell does.
Yeah.
His
He
little jump off the mound. It's one of my favorite. The gif right before the show. That's my favorite gif of all time.
didn't get the flow sweaty. Just an easy.
Yeah, didn't even have to shower.
Camden Sewell already makes everything look pretty easy, but this was just more evidence of it.
Yeah.
Good to see Halverson. I mean, not anything just dominant, but he's we talked about before. He's going to be a guy that you're going to need. So it's good to see that regardless of his outcome, that he's going to be a guy that's going to be lead heavily on this year.
Yeah, and Andrew Lindsay. I thought he pitched really well. He pitched 3 1/3 this weekend. 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, and 7 Ks in just a short amount of time. So made the most of that, and he kind of came in and minimized that damage when Chase Burns got in trouble on Saturday. So without him, I don't know if you win that ball game, but he came in there and kind of flipped the momentum there back to Tennessee, and Tennessee was able to hold on and get that win. Shout out Jared Dickey for he should have had 2 home runs. That win was
brutal.
terrible.
What 22 miles
I
an
mean,
hour?
off the bat, it's like every home run that he has, it's a no doubter. He does that little walk and kind of admires it for a little bit. This is the same thing, but it blew freaking 30 feet back. I mean, that one's probably over the scoreboard any other day.
Watching it live, it went from no doubter home. Like it was one of those where as soon as he swings, like, oh, it's home run. Like he knew it. Everybody in the park knew it. Then they switched the other angle. It's like, oh yeah, it's probably a home run. Then it's that's warning track power. Then it's regular fly ball. Then next thing I know, right fielder's laying on his stomach and it's bouncing past him. So I mean, I don't want to give respect to Texas A&M at all, but what a day for that right fielder, because just that play alone, I mean, that is brutal to go from a ball that's normally 30 feet over the fence to it lands in front of you and you got to do the embarrassed chase down after it to prevent it inside the Parker, which Dickey did pimp it. Pretty easy triple. You wonder that first 5 or 6 steps, which I'm not going to blame him, because at the same time, like any other day, that ball's ridiculously gone. But it would a Jared Dickey inside the Parker is the only thing missing from our lives.
So yeah, I mean, it should have been 2 bombs, ended up being a triple and a sac fly. I mean, just me and kind of Caleb talked about this right after that game. It's like, how demoralizing is it to get beat on a sac fly? Like that sucks. Yeah. And like the right fielder had no shot.
Yeah, like one where it's there's going to be a play at the plate with a decent throw, or maybe it's got to have a Bo Jackson cannon and it's got to be perfect. Like those, you still look at it and it's a play. It's if it's deep in the left center gap and you could crawl home. I mean, that's a demoralizing, because at that point, I think I'd rather just give up a home run.
Yeah. Also, like, I don't know if this would have been like a lot cooler, because it was cool that they ripped his jersey off in the kind of pile there. It would have been really cool if they ripped his jersey off and like slipped on the fur coat as he like ran out of it. That would have been sick.
Have we seen it this year? Has it made an appearance
I don't know.
anywhere?
I wonder if somebody wore it out one night, and maybe it's hanging up at a souvenir somewhere, like Cool Beans or something like that. I don't know.
I didn't know if it was stashed in a helmet in the dugout somewhere and they were waiting for the right time. But I mean, what's the punishment if they bring it out? Is there any? Is it just slap on the wrist? I don't.
Yeah,
I ask that, and the NCAA doesn't even know. So who knows?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, let's get into the umpires a little bit. I think umpires are getting worse at balls and strikes because they're so worried about the pitch clock.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exhausting. Like this is their way to have some sort of power, I guess. I mean, we
Oh,
saw the. Did you see the spring training game today? Where
Real Muto.
yeah,
I was just about to bring it up. Yeah, it's not even it's not baseball for them anymore.
no,
It's a who's got the bigger you know what contest. Like that's all it
hmm
is.
yeah, yeah. I mean that guy on Saturday, he had a rough time. I mean, he was bad.
The Yeah, he was. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the Real Muto is. I laughed when I saw it. That's if anybody doesn't know, just look up if you can't spell just look up umpire ejection for today, and
Yeah,
it's everywhere. I mean, pitching ninjas got it.
it's unreal.
The funniest thing about it too, and we'll get back to Tennessee, but the funniest thing about it too is just the pure look of shock on his face, like, "What did you just throw me out for?" And it's always an umpire that looks like that too. That like his
Mhm.
shoulder pads look ridiculously big, doesn't fill him out, and he's got the same smirk on his face, like "I got you." But anyway, yeah. Luckily, we didn't see that on Saturday because can you imagine Tony Vitello in that situation?
Yeah,
On an ejection like that for one of his players.
yeah. He must have been betting on the other team.
Would Tony kill a man? Would he kill that umpire in that situation?
I don't know.
Hypothetically,
Tony has tried to keep his comments and stuff to a minimum. Um, I mean, he called somebody big man or something like that because um, I think it was on Saturday where the umpire wouldn't give Ricky Martinez time so he can get a pitch runner for somebody. He wouldn't give him time. So Tony's over there having a cow. It's just like he calls the home plate umpire out by his first name. It was like, yo, he won't give him time because he's being a hard ass. Um, so yeah, it's just a whole power trip. It's exhausting. And I think the pitch clock is only just enhancing that. Like it just gives them one more thing that they can just ruin the game over.
Well, you see that it's terrible too because yeah, half the umpires love this newfound sense of power that they have now. It's just another way they can get their face on TV. But you can see the other half of umpires are like, yeah, we don't want to call it either. Like that's a terrible rule then. Like if the
Yeah,
enforcers of the game don't even want to call it, and
he called him a tough guy, not a hard ass. Sorry.
tough
Yeah.
guy. That's I think I don't know, a split decision on that one. But
Yeah.
one's more direct, like you know what you're being told. Then the other
I
one,
was saying what Tony Vitello really wanted to
you're
say.
right, right. The other one's kind of passive aggressive, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's how you know it's terrible though. If the enforcers of the game are like, "Hey, yeah, we don't," half of them are like, "Yeah, we don't really want to call that," and then the other half, and it seems like in all levels with MLB now too, they're like, I don't know if I should call it or not. Like they don't know when it applies half the time. It seems like it's just I know MLB said they were going to look at revamping the rules, or it's their way of saying, hey, we
it
thought this would
sucks.
be good. Everyone hates it. We
Yeah,
shouldn't be surprised, but we are. That's maybe college will just follow whatever they do. I don't know. I go back to my general statement. I like watching sports. When people say they want to watch less sports, I'm like, well, you probably weren't watching it in the first place anyway. Like the people complaining about it were probably just like they'll tune in for 2 innings, then they watch Netflix the rest of the time. It's like, well, why are you ruining it for everybody else? Like that makes no
right.
sense. You're not even watching it.
I mean, I didn't know how good I had it until we didn't have sports for like 2 years during COVID. So, yeah, any time that I can watch sports, I'm going to do it. So,
Here's the thing: if you don't want to watch sports, you don't have to.
God,
That's the beauty of it.
turn it off is really difficult. That power button. I do want to get your thoughts. Since you are a former catcher, thoughts on Jared Dickey and the job he did behind the plate.
I thought he looked solid. I don't think there was any glaring weaknesses. And I mean,
There's some past balls that maybe like he could have caught, but I do
I
think
don't
that is it doesn't hurt you because most of the time you don't have runners on base anyway.
And I don't think that I don't think that any of those, trying to think how to put it, are things that you wouldn't see from a guy that, I mean, I know he caught in the preseason some, but I mean, it's different in a game. That's the first time we've seen it in a game, right? This so
He
far this
pitched a
year.
little bit on Tuesday, or he caught a little bit on Tuesday for a couple innings, and then caught some this weekend.
Those are kind of ones where I'm like, sometimes on some days it just it takes it hitting your glove a couple times before
Sure,
before you get used to the speed, especially with as many guys as we've got right now that are becoming regular guys and how many different arms you've got to handle. If you're not doing that every day, like it's hard to get used to, especially on that quick a turnaround, and especially since this week's the first time we've seen it since probably preseason. So I mean, the few pass balls we saw, I wouldn't think that's anything long term. I'll say I don't want him catching every day, just because I mean he's going to get wore down quicker like that.
sure.
I mean that's Charlie and Cal have to hold it down there. Now, if it's an occasional thing, if he promises he'll hit a home run and give you a couple sacrifice flies to win games when he's going to do it, yeah, save him for that. But I no, he didn't do anything to show me that he shouldn't be doing it anymore. I don't really want him to. Like that's
Yeah,
another
I
place to
mean,
get
you
banged
saw
up.
like the production just goes down at the plate. That just happens. Like you don't
Yeah,
see catchers batting over 300 in the MLB. There's a reason.
yeah. He. I mean, we talked about it before. A guy that he may be the most important guy in the lineup. So
Yeah,
I don't want him. That's why I'm a big fan of him at the DH spot. Like if that's what he's good at, let him do that all the time, and don't make him do anything else. If you don't have to,
but in a rubber match, maybe you need to go get a win. I like it because you have that lineup. You keep his bat in there, and then you're able to get some, more, athletes kind of in that outfield in the lineup as well. So, yeah,
yeah,
I thought it was a good kind of change up there. That if they need to go to it, they can. And maybe he catches one day. Maybe him and somebody have a really good connection there where, um, he just that pitcher prefers throwing to Jared
yeah,
Dickey.
yeah. It's true. It's one of those things. It's nice to have it in my eyes, but you just hope you don't have to use it. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought Charlie Taylor hit the ball better this weekend. I mean, again, like we don't need him to hit 400. I don't think anybody's asking him to. Be serviceable, move runners, do your job, and I thought he did that a lot this weekend when he got the opportunity.
I'll say, I mean, with the rest of the talent in the lineup, like I think we said on here before, we don't. It's like you just said, we don't need him to do that.
Yeah, he's the
It's not.
only one that's thrown anybody out. So
Yeah,
I definitely think if you're making out your ideal defensive lineup, Charlie Taylor is there. Um, but or if you want to go more offensive, you think that gives you a better chance to win, then yeah, you might go at Jared Dickey.
yeah. He doesn't like it, and it's not exciting. But I mean, we said before. I know I've said before, like maybe his role is just he's the small ball guy. Like he just does. He gets bunts down. He does he moves runners over, stuff like that. I know it's not going to look glamorous. It's not going to win you any awards doing it that way, but at the same time, like comes down to that or winning games. Like, and I mean, you saw the 2 home run performance. Can he do that every day? It looks like no. So I
You're
mean,
right.
it's
As
just
much as we
fine.
want to say yes.
Right. Just find what you can do, and because, like you just said, his defense isn't going to get him kicked out of that spot. So just focus on what you can do at the plate and surprise some people.
Yeah, and it sucks for Kavaris Tears, man. I thought he played really well on Friday night, hit the ball well. Made 2 plays in the outfield that were really good, and it just sucks he has that hamstring injury, and that's one thing. It's like it could be gone in a few days. It can linger on the rest of the season. Like you just
Yeah.
never know with a muscle like that. So definitely want to get him back, but rest him. Another thing that I'll kind of want to bring up is like, what else does Dylan Dreiling have to do to be in the lineup?
For
I
Hunter
don't get paid a lot of
Hensley.
money to be the coach, but he would be
Yeah,
hard for me to keep off that lineup card when I made it out.
before it was Kavaris Tears, now it's Hunter Hensley. Like he's got some. It speaks to him. He's had somebody at his throat the entire time, and he just doesn't. He doesn't back down. So I mean,
It just always produces, man.
it's like they want to ride the hot hand out of which I mean Tears. Like you just said, you don't know how long he's going to be out now, but here's Inslee, so it's like it's a good idea to just hey have three of them and rotate whoever's hot, play them that game. But at the same time, like the mental aspect of it, of him being a freshman and knowing like I could be the odd man out here with a bad weekend and have to try to play my way back in. He doesn't ever do it at all. He's just consistent all the time. So I'm kind of in your camp. I love watching Kavaris Tears just because every time he swings, I'm convinced that he's going to break something, and not anything on him, something on somebody else. So I don't know though with Dreiling. He's athletic enough that you want him getting reps in the outfield. So I'm like, don't DH him, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. That's the $1,000,000 question.
Yeah, I mean, like even yesterday, like I mean, nothing against Cal Stark. I think he's a really good player, but in terms of just production, I don't know why Dylan Dreiling isn't given an opportunity in that DH spot.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're wanting to get start. Maybe they're real kind of. I don't even want to say it because I mean, last time I'm not bad mouthing Charlie, but last time we were like, hey, yeah, maybe Cal's got more potential there. You saw what Charlie did that night. We got the text messages to prove it, but it's like maybe they're like, okay, like let's see if we get Cal's bat going, maybe get him back there more. So Dylan Dreiling's done nothing. Shouldn't be playing every day. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't know, like fielding wise. I know he's made a couple mistakes, but I mean, who hasn't made any mistakes in that outfield so far this season? So I think Hunter Inslee has earned a spot, but especially with Kavaris Tears going down with an injury for a while, I think Dylan Dreiling has to be that next guy.
I don't know who else would be. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
and even with Kavaris Tears in the lineup, I still think Dylan Dreiling's probably in there.
and in
Again,
my
I mean, he's putting a lot of pressure on Tony V to
yeah.
not put him in there.
Yeah, that's what he's got. It's obvious that's what he's got to do because he's been doing it this whole time, and it's still not his
Yeah,
spot
I
locked
mean,
down.
pinch hit, just come in, just cold, and he always seems to produce. And I like his swing too.
Maybe he's the
Maybe it's the lefty thing. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
oh
But
for sure.
at the end,
I'm a righty, and I wish I grew up as a lefty. Lefty swings are just
right? But I'm saying, is that why he's not in the lineup? It's
oh.
just because
I,
he is another lefty, and maybe you try to go
I
righty.
mean, I would think so. I mean, obviously, I'm not Tony Vitello, but I know we talked about here. I think I brought up last week or a couple weeks ago how even it was like lefty righty, Zane switch. Like I think it was either the entire lineup or it got down to 8 or 9 before you had back to backs. I mean, and if he's tearing the cover off of it, he could bat with his feet for all I care.
Right. Oh yeah, that's where I'm at. It's like I don't care how
Yeah.
he hits it.
So I don't understand it either.
Because I mean, Hunter Inslee's a righty, so I think that kind of evens it out a little bit. But you know, here's the thing: you're going to have a lot of lefties in this lineup. That's just Tennessee just has that many guys that should be in the lineup that are left-handed. And that stupid wind. I mean, we probably have 4 home runs on Saturday if it wasn't for that wind. But we have so many lefties hitting it out that way.
You got the short fence and right, like your Bronx Bombers imaginary
Yeah.
stadium they play at. So I mean, it's just I thought you were asking just the pure beauty of the swings. I was like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, it's pretty too.
I mean it looks, but that's part of Zane Denton. What we've talked about, like you could tell me that his numbers are 10% better on the right-handed side. I'd be like, no, it's not right. Like
I
it looks
need a video of him batting left-handed and bat right. It looks exactly the same.
yeah, but
Now
but
I'd like to
still,
see it next to each other to see how similar it actually
and
is.
even
But
so, it just looks better lefty.
oh yeah, 100%.
Even though it looks I get what you're saying. It looks the exact same with the stance and everything. It just lefty just looks
It just
better.
comes off the bat a little better. Yeah,
That
I
Griffey
agree.
bat drop that Blake Burke has brought to Knoxville, it just nothing better than it.
Yeah, It's a lot cooler when you're.
You get out of the box quicker. Would have never helped me, but some of those guys get out of the box quicker from that side. It's
Yeah, I
just
couldn't
better.
imagine. I feel like you'd fall down. I'm a righty too, so
That's if I have a son, he'll be raced as a lefty.
yeah, you gotta have good hips. Got to get out of that back pedal a little bit.
Brother, I was a catcher. There's no good hips left.
But let's talk about Zane Denton, man. I mean, here you go. Here's a 9 hole, and he just shows out. It kind of made you look, smart. Not to say that you're not, but when
He
you were talking about how you'd like to see, I can't. Was it Maui in the 9 hole and
in
have or
8 or 9, yeah.
yeah, to kind of have another guy down there at the bottom.
I
But then
think
you
I
put
said I think I said Maui at 8, Charlie at 9, and let him do his small ball stuff, and then you've got the top of the order. But
yeah. But I mean, how do you keep Zane Denton down there? He's like, yeah, I'm not staying down here.
yeah,
I'm going 3 for 3, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs from the right-handed side, and bat me right-handed. I don't
and
care. Put me in the
part of it
line.
part of it I liked with Maui down there is because the speed too. Because then you got top of the order with Christian Moore, you got more speed coming up there. But
Which is
we
weird. He doesn't steal.
right, and I mean Zane's not slow. I mean, so that's not really, or
Yeah.
he doesn't look that. He's fast to me. I'll put it that way. So it doesn't. There's not any big drop off there. I mean, I know he don't want to stay there for pride purposes, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm Tony V, I'm
It,
like,
it
hey,
only matters that first time in the lineup. Then
yeah.
everybody
I'm
is
like, why,
where
son?
they're at.
Why would you that? Why would you not? If I had that kind of performance in the 9 hole, I'd be like, you better not put me clean up again. Like I'm
Yeah.
surprised them down here at the bottom of the order. They probably think I suck. And I mean, he goes off like that. Like, I,
Yeah, there you go. They're doubting him a little bit. I
how is
like
there
that.
any shame in the 9 hole when your 9 hole is hitting multiple bombs a game like that?
I don't know how anybody in the SEC is doubting Zane Denton though. After they've seen him for 25 years, it seems like.
Call the cleanup hitter a nerd. Then be like, hey, I'm your cleanup, but I had 2 bombs this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting to have Hunter Inslee at cleanup. I mean, it worked, I guess. So whatever, but it was just kind of interesting how they kind of changed up the lineup a little bit. And I mean, so where do you bat Zane Denton at? Like, do you let him bat right or left, or do you just go off pitching matchup?
I think 1 through 3 is definitely set. I'm not messing with that now. Now that Maui's hit it, I I like Denton in the 4 spot. I like him at cleanup just because how patient he is.
Hmm.
It's not he's not a cleanup hitter that it's either a bomb or he's striking out. Like that's not him, and that's what I love about him is how patient he is. That it doesn't take a big base knock there. Bases loaded, he doesn't have to come up and drive somebody in. He's always the threat that he could take a walk, and then that's just even more momentum for Merritt after him. I mean,
Yeah, you see a lot of guys like if it's a close strike two, they're a little bit upset about it. It might affect the next pitch. Zane Denton, you wouldn't know if it was 0-2 or 3-0. He has the same approach every single time.
and I know the cleanup spot comes with the notion that it's got to be a bomber that gets up there. I've always hated that. Like if that's your guy that you want driving in the most runs, I want it to be my best hitter. I like Dickey at cleanup, honestly. But
Hmm.
you can move him. It comes down to who can be moved and still produce. Dickey can. Looks like Zane can. Now, some guys you move them, it's going to mess with their head. I wouldn't. Merritt's a little. He's a little more pop or not there, so not as much. But I, I've always subscribed to the notion I want my best hitter that's going to get on base in cleanup because if you just do your job and get guys on in front of him, I want somebody that can drive him in. Like if it's a bomb, cool. If it's taking a walk, if it's a single, like I want somebody that gets on base in the 4 slot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, so who's your favorite Tennessee baseball player this year?
I love Kavaris Tears. Um, I love Griffin Merritt. It's got to be Dickey though. Just
Yeah,
he does everything the right way, and he seems like a good dude in the dugout. He just seems like he's fun to be around, and we've seen like he does whatever, and it seems like he just doesn't complain about it. So I I could pick one thing from everybody in the lineup that I like, especially on the staff too. I mean, Dolander's filthy. He's up there for me, but
Mhm.
it's got to be Jared Dickey.
Yeah, I like QB1. I like Drew Beam. Um,
Hard not to like him.
yeah, his family's really cool too, so gotta like that. Also, I tried to as soon as Jared Dickey hit that walk off, I said to myself, if he hits this, I'm buying a Jared Dickey jersey.
Yeah, I need to get
Went
one.
and went try to look online. I think they're all sold out. I don't think they have them anymore.
Surprise me.
Yeah.
That's
So Vol
Mountain
Shop,
Juliet.
that's
Mountain
no free
Juliet, I think
ads.
he's from.
Yeah.
They're all wearing them. They got to be.
Yeah. No free ads, but Vol Shop, hey, you need to do your thing.
He won me over. Was it last year or 2 years ago when he was hurt and was hobbling out to the batter's box and was still just
Yeah, that was last
little
year.
line drive to center, little line drive, and he, God help him, he couldn't get to second base because he was just hobbling. But I think that's when we came up with the professional hitter nickname. Like he's hitting off one leg and it just didn't matter.
Well, I mean, like, you knew it was over as soon as, you know, I think Christian Moore got to third base. Is that who it
Yeah.
was?
I
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah,
think
it
so.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew it was over.
Yeah.
It didn't. It didn't matter.
He's a guy that if he doesn't produce, I'm shocked. In a
Yeah.
game where producing 3 out of 10 times, you're a legend then.
Yeah.
And he's good enough to where when he doesn't do something, I'm like, oh, that's surprising.
Yep. So LSU this weekend. Gonna be a tough matchup. Gonna be a tough next four matchups for Tennessee in the weekend series. You got number one LSU, number three Florida, number six Arkansas, and number four Vandy. So I'd like to see somebody with a better gauntlet than that because, man, and LSU they're super talented. Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz is hitting over 500, which is stupid. Tommy White, he has what 42 RBIs already. Like it, I mean, it's unreal what that team's doing. And I said it from the get go. I was like, if they don't win a national championship, Jay Johnson should be fired. I mean, as much talent they got in the transfer portal, and they already had Trey Morgan and Dylan Cruz and Gavin Dugas. I mean, were loaded anyway. And you had Paul Skeens, who is throwing 100 and can also hit, but he's not hitting, which is weird. And how stupid is that? I mean, they've lost 3 games, and one of their best hitters probably is just pitching.
Yeah.
They don't even need him to hit. So yeah, it's just an insane amount of talent they have. It's going to be a tough matchup. Tennessee's had their number, the past couple years. I think they are. The last 2 years, they're 0-4 against Tennessee.
I mean, Dylan Cruz is.
Or no,
I don't remember them.
5-6, 0-6.
Yeah,
We
I
beat
don't
them in the
remember.
Supers. We swept them, and then we beat them in Hoover last year.
I don't remember the last loss to him. That's maybe because last year was such a blur. But
Yeah.
Dylan Cruz is. That's no disrespect to anybody in Tennessee's lineup. He's the best pure college hitter I've ever seen, or best pure non-professional baseball player, or in professional baseball hitter that I've ever seen. Like
Is Tags going to change your mind?
we'll see what Dolander does because I'm ready to see a pissed off Dolander versus Dylan Cruz because I
Yeah.
mean he's hasn't been bad for Dolander by any means, but he's not happy with how it's been going. So
Yeah.
it's that first at bat will be appointment television.
Well, here's the thing: like you go in there and like you have nothing to lose. Really, this is the number one team in the country. They're full of talent. This is their chance to win one because after next year, Dylan Cruz is gone, Trey Morgan gone, Gavin Dugas is gone, Paul Skeens is gone. I think Tommy White still has another year. But I mean, like it's going to be a totally different LSU team. So I think this is their chance to go try to win one. And man, what an opportunity it is in front of you to go to the box and knock off a team that you've had their number lately.
I was going to make a joke about Tommy tanks. Everything he hits goes to right field, so you just need a stiff breeze coming from over there to keep him in the park. But I don't want LSU Twitter at my neck. But I respect LSU. Like I don't have any hate for LSU. They're one. If Tennessee didn't exist, they would probably be my team in college athletics. I don't. That's just a knee jerk reaction right now.
Mhm.
I like LSU. They're a good team, but I want to run rule them in every game.
Yeah, 100%. I do think their bullpen is a little shaky at times. Like they have given up a couple runs. I mean, they did lose to Texas A&M on that Sunday matchup, so it's not like they're unbeatable. And you just went in there and swept a team that got one on LSU. So they're not this immortal giant that can't be beat. So I want to see Tennessee kind of go in there and just play relaxed. Have that little edge to you. I mean, go into the box and come back with a win. I mean, we did it in football. We came back with a win. Let's do it in baseball too.
And it should probably be mentioned that Mizzou got swept this weekend, right?
Yep.
South Carolina. So I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. I mean, it was South Carolina. They're no slouches. I mean, they've been one of the premier programs in the SEC for the past several years now. So
Mhm.
I mean, they're not as good as they were in their heyday. But like, I don't know if that makes me feel better. Like, oh,
Well, they
maybe
did walk them off on Friday, so it wasn't
right.
like it was a total just demolishing.
And it makes me feel better because like, hey, maybe that was just completely random. We talked about the basketball game being the trade off there, so maybe I don't know what it was, but it's I'm still indifferent because that they moved up to 22 in the country after that, so it's like, oh, maybe they're not slouches, but then they get swept, so it's like judgment's still out on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I think anybody can probably be beaten on any given day. That's just college baseball. This is they're amateurs, and there's a reason for it. They just don't have great days every single day. Um, so I don't know. I saw some negative people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, I don't see us losing any, or I don't see us winning any of these series." I mean, that shouldn't be the case.
You just got one of them, so
Yeah.
I mean, and I saw some. I don't even know what outlet their power rankings today, and it had Tennessee seventh in the SEC. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like that's the ultimate just prisoner of the moment. Like you've forgotten how talented this team still is.
Mhm. Yeah, and we mentioned like Tennessee swept Texas A&M, who did beat LSU in a game. Is returning a lot of guys from that Omaha team, and they didn't even play their best baseball. I mean, we had 6 errors. That's another thing I wanted to bring up too. The errors are
It's
pretty
alarming
bad.
at this point.
It's pretty bad.
It's instead of we wondered about base running drills, just make them run right now for every air. just
Yeah.
I say you want to practice base running, we'll go touch the pole and come back. That's
Mhm.
slide into home when you come back. There's your
Right.
base running today. Yeah, because it's little stuff like that that's hanging around too long.
Yeah, and I know Maui had some errors at Kansas, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but I mean, being an All American and having 2 errors in a weekend, and you had an error last weekend too. I mean, you just got to play cleaner baseball, and that's the whole team. That's not just Maui. That's everybody has to play cleaner baseball if you really want to make a run at this thing.
It's I was gonna say it will cost you. It did cost you. You got lucky well, I won't say you got lucky this weekend, but anytime it doesn't cost you, you kind of wipe your brow like, oh, okay, good.
Well,
I won't
and
do it
and
again.
then the thing about that is like last weekend we're looking at like anytime Tennessee went down, it felt like we were down and we were never coming back,
Yeah,
and that's the way it was. And this weekend, total opposite. They're down, and it didn't even phase them. And they came back and won each game. So I think this team can turn it around, can play better baseball, can play cleaner baseball, and I think you have to, especially in these next 4 series. I mean, there's not a whole lot of margin for error there.
we just don't have a good idea. That's my main takeaway. We don't have a good idea of what this team is yet, which
Yeah.
is I don't think it's a bad thing because I mean you look and you swept a team like you said that was returning that much was in the College World Series and you swept them when you don't really know what your identity is. Like we thought it
Hmm.
was going to be the pitching this year, that hasn't really showed up yet. So to be playing to have this good of a record and still be like, hey, I don't really. I bet if you ask Tony Vitello too, he's like, I don't really know like what this team is yet. Last year it was dominance on both sides, and now it's kind of like very good on both sides with some head scratching mixed in. So
Sure.
you don't really have an identity yet, but that's fine for this part of the year.
Yeah.
Now, maybe this is the weekend that you figure it out a little bit.
And also, like that, I mean, Blake Burke didn't have a great weekend at the plate. I mean, I know he hit that bomb on Friday, but like he's kind of, or was that on Tuesday?
I
Yep.
thought he had one this weekend at some point. I could be
Okay.
wrong
But yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great weekend, and Tennessee still won 3 games against a top 25 opponent. Like, I mean, it's good that you're kind of mixing it out through the lineup. It's not just one person. I do think Blake Burke is probably the best hitter on this team, but he didn't have it this weekend, and Tennessee was able to overcome that. What if Dylan Cruz doesn't have a good weekend this weekend? Does LSU still
though. Right.
win with him? I don't know. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what it looks like if Dylan Cruz doesn't have a good weekend. But I mean, that's going to be a tough task for. But he is going against one of the best pitching staffs in America, so maybe that's something to kind of keep an eye on. I'd like to see him
Burks.
not bat a 500.
Yeah. Burke's home run was on Friday, and yeah,
Okay.
it's good to see that we can do it without him. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to have to, but maybe LSU can't do it without Cruz. I'm hoping the Braves offer him a mega contract this week, and he takes it and
Runs with it.
decides he doesn't want to do this college thing anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap the show up. Let's go MVPs of the week. I'll go first this time. I'm probably going to steal yours, and I'm sorry. I'm going Jared Dickey. Catcher, walk off. He was 6 for 11 in the series, 3 RBIs, only 1 strikeout all weekend long too. So really good stuff from him, and I think right now he's Tennessee's probably best player.
Yeah, I was going to go Dickey. I'll go Zane though, because I feel like it could be either one.
Zane game.
I almost didn't take Zane too because I thought maybe it'd piss him off a little bit more if nobody picked him, and he was like, "Well, I'm hitting at the 9 or 8 spot, whatever it was now. Like, what else
Yeah.
do I have to do?" And he just unloaded on LSU staff this weekend. So I'll go honorable mention Hunter Inslee just in case Zane didn't seize this. I want to piss
Okay.
him off a little bit more.
I'll go honorable mention Christian Moore. I thought he had a really nice weekend at the
Yeah.
plate. He was much needed in that lineup to kind of get things going and kind of start some of those rallies to get back into everything. So, great show. We'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a series win over. Or let's go sweep or we'll take a series win,
I'll
but we
settle
want
for
to
it.
sweep.
It'll
Yeah.
be okay, I guess.
Against number 1 LSU in the box. Going to be a big weekend. That starts on Thursday, so don't miss out. Thursday is on ESPN, and Friday's on national television. Both those games are on national television, and then Saturday is on SEC Network Plus. Don't tell me why. I don't have no clue. But yeah, going to be a good weekend of baseball. So go check that out, and we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. See y'all.